Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the Winning Digital Customers Show. We're going to talk about a very interesting topic today, which is personal service versus personalization in digital experiences. So here's what I'm talking about. And this is a struggle that I see a lot of companies that I'm working with thinking about right now. I'm going to use the word personal service for the purposes of our discussion today to refer to human interaction, right? Actual, like getting on the phone with someone, talking to someone in a store, even chatting with someone, as long as it's a real human and not a chatbot. That is all what I mean by personal service. An actual human being is spending time from the business with the customer. And then I'm going to refer to digital experiences, self-service, including personalized experiences as the alternative. Because here's the trend. For many years, many companies have been thinking to themselves, hey, how can I move more of my customer interactions to digital? Because of course, it's a lot less expensive. If you're not paying someone to sit there one-on-one with a customer in real time, in most cases, you're spending less money. And also, the truth is that when we do customer research, which we do all the time, we find that for most of the time, that is also what customers prefer. If you ask a customer, would you rather get on the phone with your bank or your insurance company or your healthcare company or a store about returning a product or whatever, would you rather get on the phone or would you rather just do it through an online web tool or on a mobile app? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say they prefer self-service. So, it seems like we have this perfect world in which a huge percentage of customers prefer self-service and a huge percentage of, in businesses can really save a lot of money by driving things to self-service. But it's not that simple. First of all, it is not always beneficial to the brand to move interactions to self-service because sometimes through the human interface, you're able to upsell and cross-sell and build a warmer, richer relationship than you can through some kind of a self-service portal. So it's not, yes, there's less cost, but is it really less cost if you save $20 but lose on a $500 sale? I mean, probably not, right? So the opportunity to be more effective with the customer in certain situations means that it is not always smart to move away from personal service. Secondly, while customers do often prefer it, they don't always prefer it. There are some situations where we'll talk about it in a minute, where customers really don't want to be pushed to some sort of self-service situation. I would add that, what further complicating things is the fact that personal service, isn't always a higher quality service experience. Sometimes I hear conversations where people are talking about, wow, we're a very high-end brand. Shouldn't we be giving more personal experience? And the reality is, both because of customer expectations and the time it can take for a personal experience and other reasons, which I'm going to talk about, even high-end customers sometimes don't want to talk to you. In fact, a joking thing that I often tell my customers, my clients, is your customers do not want to talk to you. Now, again, there are exceptions to that, but we see that over and over in the research. Digital experiences can be very personal, right? They can be very powerful in terms of creating that feeling like you're being personally taken care of. Perhaps in some cases better than some individual human experiences. So it's a little bit of a complicated landscape as to figuring out which is the higher quality. Sometimes we have this mindset that the human experience is going to be the higher quality, but we may be willing to sacrifice some quality by pushing down to a digital experience if we save money. But that is an oversimplification. And what we're going to do today is we're going to unpack some of that oversimplification for you. And I just want to point out also that, I want to toss out this question, which you can think about as you hear these 5 areas I'm going to go through. It's possible that we sometimes overvalue personal human interaction. And I only say that because if you look at some of the most successful brands today, I'm not even just talking about successful digital brands, the most successful brands today, many of them have limited customer interaction. Amazon, Facebook, Google, right? If you look at some of the biggest growth companies over the last decade, many of them are trying hard not to have one-to-one human interactions with customers. And, you could look at someone like Apple and say, well, they have a very complicated landscape because on the one hand, huge percentage of Apple's interactions with customers are not personal in the context of being a one-to-one interaction with humans. And yet they've also created the Apple Store, which is an outstanding personal one-on-one interaction point as well. So again, I think these kind of go to that complexity. There's no one simple answer. In any case, what I want to talk about today, because we've looked at this closely for many clients, I want to talk about 5 key areas. And what are these 5 areas? Here's what they are. We ask this question when customers are thinking about what should be digital and what should be a personal experience and how they want to craft that customer journey. In our experience, there are 5 key reasons why customers may prefer a personal interaction or may think they want a personal interaction. I want to go through those 5 areas with you so you can apply them to your own situation and thinking. And in each of those areas, talk a little bit about some of the nuances of when is it better for that area, that itch, if you will. The customer's looking for something. It's why they want to talk to a person. Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, I don't want to deal with a website right now. I want to talk to a person. Okay, well, why? Why did you want to talk to a person? There was a reason, right? And it was probably one of these 5 reasons. And so it's helpful to use these. I like to use this as a model to go in and say, okay, how can we understand what our customers' needs are? Which of these 5 reasons are the reasons why they potentially want to talk to a person? And is that really the right solution? Sometimes the customer thinks they have a reason they want to talk to a person, but what they really want is not to talk to a person. What they really want is to get their problem solved, and they just think this is going to be the best way to do it. Sometimes it may be, and sometimes maybe it isn't. So let's dive in. Let's talk about these 5 areas. So the first reason that customers sometimes want to talk to a human being is they want intelligence. What do I mean by intelligence? They want advice. I'm thinking about my retirement planning, and I kind of want to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. I want a recommendation. I'm trying to decide between these 2 cameras, and I'd love to talk to somebody who's like a photography expert, like I might find at some stores, who can advise me on the pros and cons of these different products. Or I may need some other kind of knowledge. I may be working on a home improvement and I'm sort of stuck in the middle of it. And I think maybe I need this kind of tool, or maybe I need that kind of tool. I'm not sure. I want to go maybe to Home Depot or talk to somebody who would be able to help me with my situation. So is that a situation? That's a reason why customers sometimes yearn to talk to people. And that can be a perfectly valid reason to have people. At the same time, we have a lot of digital tools that can also provide intelligence. Look at what Amazon does. Not only do they have reviews, which often provide insight and intelligence about products, they have comparison grids that come up for products. So if I look at a Sony camera, it's going to show me how it compares to a bunch of competitive cameras. And of course, I can click on those and read the reviews. It has a question and answer feature. So, obviously some retailers have chatbots or other e-commerce properties have. In fintech, we see a lot of this kind of automated advice opportunities. So there are a lot of digital tools that can be used to create this experience of the customer feeling they're interfacing with intelligence. And by the way, depending on the training that you're providing to the people who work for you, our customer is always going to receive the intelligence they hope to receive when interacting with someone one-on-one. I mean, I hope in your case, the answer is yes. But if you're like a lot of companies that I work with, the answer is variable. The answer is it kind of depends who they wind up talking to. So this is a consideration, because if you have this mindset that my customers need intelligent advice and the best way to provide it is to hook them up with a human being, well, you want to make sure you're clear on what level of quality you're actually providing. And I certainly think it makes sense to be looking at some of these other more digital ways to scratch that itch of I need intelligence, I need advice, because clearly humans are not the only way to provide that. The second reason why customers often like to talk to a person is memory. Have you ever been in a situation where you spoke to someone at a company and you feel like they kind of understand your case, your situation, and then you have to call back, you're like, I just want to talk to that person again. I don't want to have to explain the whole situation. Or maybe there's somebody that you go to over and over. Maybe there's a jeweler that you keep going back to that understands your spouse and their tastes and preferences, or a restaurant where they know what you like to eat or know your dietary considerations or restrictions and make special food for you. So people who, when you come, they go, oh, I know this person, I know their situation, I know some of their needs. Now, that can be really a great customer experience. Clearly, this is also something that digital personalization is designed to do. When you go to Netflix and you are shown movies or TV shows that you're likely to like based on your past viewing preferences. In fact, I saw a statistic somewhere, I think it said that over 75%, it might have even been over 90% of all videos watched on Netflix are a result of the recommendation engine recommending shows and movies to their customers. So clearly, the ability to know and remember the customer, while, we all remember in the 80s watching Cheers and the song, sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Well, that's what you get at Amazon, right? Hello, Howard, welcome back. It's not really just about knowing your name, though. It's really about knowing more about you. And the truth of the matter is that while it can be a very satisfying experience to speak to the same financial advisor that understands your situation, or the same plumber that knows the tricky things that are happening in the pipes in your household, or whatever it may be, it's just like in our prior example around intelligence. It's equally likely if someone speaks to a human being within your organization that person may not know who they are, right? You may not get back to the same person. First of all, one employee of yours is going to have a hard time in most cases, unless they're a real exceptional person, remembering the details of all of your customers. And especially if you have a large organization, it can be tough to route the customer back to the same employee over and over. And then, of course, we use CRM systems that attempt to create shared memory across customer associates. And that can be hit or miss as well, right? How much detail is there in the record? And how often have you gotten on the phone with someone and say, hang on, I just need a minute to review your record. And you're waiting for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, while a human being is reading through your whole transaction history, especially if it's a complicated situation. The truth of the matter is that well-crafted digital experiences can handle more data at one time. I'll look at it using algorithms, look at it using data that crosses across different customers to look for propensities, and very often make more use of that memory than a human can. So not against humans, but let's remember that if the second reason that customers think they want to talk to a person is I want to talk to that person who knows my name and remembers my situation, there are ways that the digital world can sometimes do an even better job of that. Let's move on. Number 3. The third reason that customers often want to talk to a person is flexibility. What I mean by flexibility is sometimes, there's a policy, there's a return policy, 30 days, or, there's a, you're trying to get your check cleared and it's supposed to take a certain period of time, but you need the money faster. Sometimes you need someone to sort of break a rule for you. There's a reason, there's a logical reason why it makes sense. Yes, you need to change your flight. Yes, it's a non-refundable flight, but on the other hand, you do $300,000 worth of business a year with that airline, and this is an exceptional situation, and it was the airline's fault to begin with. And you want to be able to speak to a supervisor and say, look, under these circumstances, I think you should use your supervisory override and do what it is I need you to do. Whereas when you're dealing with a digital interface and it gives you 4 radio buttons, or whatever, and you pick an option and it tells you what the situation is, it seems difficult to plead your case to a digital experience. And, I think it's perfectly reasonable to see that as a reason why sometimes you want to escalate things to a human being. And in fact, having some easy way that a person can begin, for example, the return process digitally, but request an appeal or request an exception via some additional button in a digital interface. So you have the ability, without having to take the entire story and have the whole long interaction with the customer digitally, to be able to just use a little slice of human interaction to consider the situation and decide whether you want to make an exception. But increasingly, those types of things are also done algorithmically. If I go on American Express and I contest a charge that I believe was fraudulent, or that I believe was, the vendor, the product, didn't live up to expectations. If I do $100,000 a year with that card and the thing that I'm contesting is a $20 item, their algorithm is just going to give me my money back and not waste a human time trying to look into this situation, because it's just not worth it. And if you look at something like Amazon, they have thought about all the reasons why you might want to have a return. They ask you why you're returning. There's a complex, or at least moderately complex, decision tree associated with something like returns. And clearly, partly what they're doing is trying to handle different situations. If the product was broken, if the product was defective, if the product wasn't what you expected, if the product arrived late, et cetera, et cetera. And then they can go check whether that's true. If the product really arrived late and that's why you want to return it early, or don't think you should have to pay return shipping, the system will do that for you without a human having to get involved. So again, while it's not useful for everything, bear in mind that if one of the 5 reasons why your customers think they want to speak to a human being is flexibility, sometimes you can build that into your systems. And at the same time, sometimes being able to provide that flexibility with a human creates more of a relationship. So that's worthwhile as well. So the 4th reason why customers sometimes feel they want to talk to a human, they want personal experience, is trust. It's that feeling that, I'm making an important decision here, whether it's a medical decision or it's a large purchase, or maybe a situation has gotten screwed up and I just feel like I need to speak to a person. I need to feel like I'm looking someone in the eyes, or I've got someone on the phone. Maybe it's somebody who's going to say, Howard, I am going to take care of this for you. And I feel like there's a person on the hook for it, instead of just some emailing thing or some chat thing where I really don't know who I'm dealing with. And it's kind of hard to have that feeling of that sort of warm, fuzzy feeling that someone is taking personal responsibility. And there's no question that that is valuable. And there are some types of decisions, if some people, if they're going to buy life insurance, they need to be able to look the person in the eye and kind of have that feeling that I trust this person. So there's no question that that is a powerful reason that people sometimes want to speak to a human. Having said that, it's interesting that people are willing to engage in larger and larger and larger purchases online through digital interactions that don't involve any kind of one-to-one personal experience. And there's a variety of digital signals that also indicate trust. Everything from, does your website or your mobile app seem professional? Is it of high quality? Things like that. To, of course, various types of online reviews, which are a tremendous source of trust. If you're on a platform like eBay or places like that, there are sort of reputational trust indicators that let you know that thousands of other people have done business with this person or this company and they've had a positive experience. Or if you're trying to trust a product to be able to do something, again, if you're going on a website, you're reading reviews, you're getting that trust other ways other than someone who looks you in the eye. And I mean, let's face it, have you ever had someone look you in the eye and just lie through their teeth? So most customers know that even when they get that personal interaction, it can engender that warm feeling of trust, but it may or may not be deserved. And then the other thing that can be a tremendous source of trust is the brand itself. Many people just trust Amazon to do what they say they will because, well, they've had many past customer experiences with that brand. And so when Amazon says that they're standing behind something as a brand, they feel confident, even though there's nobody giving them that, I'm going to look you in the eye and give you a firm handshake and assure you that everything is going to be okay. So there's a variety of ways that you can give trust in the digital world as well. And again, just bear in mind, if what that person is looking for is that feeling of trust, yes, there are ways to get it through human interactions, which can be powerful, but also imperfect. And there are also ways we can deliver it digitally. The last of the 5 areas, the 5 reasons why people sometimes prefer a human personal interaction to some sort of digital experience is personality. It's that feeling like, I'm dealing with Bob, who works at Dunkin' Donuts, or I've got, Olivia, my Nordstrom personal shopper. And it's not just about that they remember who I am. It's not just about that they're smart and can make recommendations. It's not just that they trust them. I like these people, This is my life. If I'm going to interact with people day in and day out, I kind of want to be interacting with somebody, Joe, the UPS guy who brings me my packages and we kibitz about his kids or about his fishing or whatever it may be. That can be something that people enjoy. And, it's hard to convey that digitally. There are some things that you can do. What I would say about that is that in most cases, that is not core to most business decisions. Now, sometimes it can be, there's no question. But for most people, if you give them a better value proposition, they're probably not going somewhere else just for the personality, that personal interaction. I would suggest, and feel free to disagree with me in the comments if you want, that that's just something that people enjoy. And it is without a doubt a positive component of in-person interactions. But I would add as well that, again, it's one of those questions, how many of your employees are really doing a great job of that? And how many of your customers really want that? I think that there's a segment of customers who enjoy that kind of interaction. And then there's another segment of customers who are maybe even turned off if they're just trying to get something done. I mean, let me give you an example. When we were looking for a house, we would go to look at different houses and you go in and these real estate agents would want to engage you in, your life history and get your whole background. And, they were trying to develop like a whole personal relationship with you and convey their own personality. And frankly, I don't want to sound antisocial. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I just wanted to see the house so I could get in, see if it was the right house and just get the heck out if that wasn't the house we wanted to buy. And so it was really annoying me that people seem to want to sort of create a personality-based relationship. And so now that's just me. Maybe there's another real estate buyer that would feel offended if the real estate agent didn't start taking out pictures from their wallet and talking about their grandchildren, So, but all I'm saying is it doesn't work with every customer. And I think we can see from the success of things like Amazon that if you don't really have that as part of your value proposition, but you have a strong value proposition otherwise, I don't think there are too many people who go to their local store when it's less convenient than Amazon just because of the winning personality of the guy behind the counter. That's just one of those things that's extra gravy. At least that's my view. And by the way, one last thought about personality. Personality, a brand can have personality, and that personality sometimes comes through a founder. So a brand like Tesla has a sense of personality because of Elon Musk. And, even if you never meet Elon Musk, you may have a little bit of a sense of that there's a quirky, eccentric personality behind the Tesla brand, and you go buy a Tesla. Maybe you buy it in a way where you have limited interactions with humans, but you still feel a little bit of sense of that personality through media, right? And of course, there are other brands where you could kind of similarly see there's a charismatic leader. Obviously, Apple and Steve Jobs would be an example of that, maybe less so with the current CEO of Apple. But so consider that as well. And that's not necessarily replacing it with digital, but what it says is that in a way it is replacing with digital though, because when the personality is provided through your media-based interactions, like watching a video of the founder or some other character rather than one-on-one interactions, that's another way for you to get a sense of personality. And actually one last thought about personality, which is I see one current common trend is adding more and more personality to user interfaces, whether that's things like little quick funny bits of copy. Instead of just saying, processing, please wait, it'll say something like, we're taking extra care to make sure your order is just right, friend, or something like that. Or you might see a little button that when you roll over, there's a little quick animation that gives you a sense of personality, whether that's a quirky personality or a cool, Star Trek-y kind of personality. Of course, there are lots of different types and flavors of personality, but we're seeing more and more the integration of copy and graphical elements into user interfaces that are designed to give you also a little bit of sense of personality. I'm not saying that's the same as, Joe, my UPS guy, but it's also a lot less time consuming, I'm sorry to say. And, so for a lot of customers, while this may be something that's stronger in the in-person world, there are also ways to provide it digitally, and I don't know that it's the most important. So those are the 5 areas. Let me just recap them. Number 1 was knowledge, right? Customers look to a human who can give them knowledge and recommendations and advice, but there are a lot of ways we can do that digitally as well. Number 2, customers like to know that you remember who they are, you remember their situation, their past orders, payment methods, all these types of things. Again, of course, there's many ways we can probably do a better job of that with digital systems and databases and algorithms and things like that in most cases. Number 3, they like flexibility. What if the computer is too rigid and I need to speak to a human? In which case, sometimes it's good to have a point of escalation, but you can also build more intelligence and flexibility into your digital experiences. Number 4, trust. Looking someone in the eye and making sure you really feel that you can count on them. But there are many ways to get trust from a customer that don't require that, such as through your brand and customer reviews. And lastly is personality, feeling like you're dealing with another human that you really enjoy, you dig them, you like spending time with them. I mean, that's what friends are for, folks, right? So while that might be fun to get from a brand, in many cases, there are other ways to provide the personality of the brand without necessarily needing to resort to the expense and the inefficiency for the customer of human interaction just to deliver personality. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. It's not a black and white, you should always do this or you should always do that. I think we always need to be thinking in our customer journeys about where do we want to steer the customer to a more digital self-service experience. Where do we want to really say, no, this is a time where we really want to deal with the customer on a call, or we really want them to come to the showroom, or we really want to deal with them in person on a Zoom type experience. And in those cases, that may absolutely be the right answer. I'm not a believer that it's a 100% digital answer, but I think there are a lot of cases where a lot of companies think that they need the one-on-one interaction, where increasingly they're discovering that there are other ways to provide just as good or better customer experience at lower cost. And of course, we've been doing that for more than a decade, but we're learning more and more about how to do that. The earliest types of interactions, digital interactions, were the simplest. I just want to check my balance, right? And those were the kind of things where we said, okay, well, if it's complicated, we'll go to a human, but if it's simple, we'll do it self-service. But over the years, as technology has become more sophisticated, artificial intelligence, machine learning, et cetera, and as customers have become more sophisticated at their use of our digital interfaces, the needle keeps moving in terms of the level of complexity and sophistication of what we can realistically support through digital channels. And it's just becoming more and more and more. So if you find yourself in a conversation where the discussion is that certain things need to be done with personal interaction, real-time interaction, at least challenge the question about, okay, that may be right, but if so, there's a reason, and it's probably one of these reasons. Let's zero in on the reason, or maybe it's a couple of these reasons. Let's first of all bring out this model. Maybe I'll make an infographic or something available for you guys. Let me know if you want something like that. Bring out the model and say, well, what is it? Could be one or several of these. And then let's just ask ourselves the question, okay, they're really after memory, but other ways, here are some of the common ways we can provide memory through digital. Would that fit the bill? And in the end, you may want to do both. You may want to make sure that for those customers that just really crave that personality, crave that human interaction, you've got a way for them to reach you. But for the large percentage of the rest of the people, you've got a fantastic self-service approach. Anyway, hopefully that's been helpful to you guys. Reach out anytime I can be of help to you. Thanks as always so much for listening and watching today's episode, and keep transforming.